Last guest speaker of the evening. She's our special guest, let me say that. So can you all stand up and give a round of applause for Miss Madelyne Woods?
Thank you, everybody. This is so weird because DC is my home, and I've only been back for about a year now. I'll let you know I have an injury, so I have to sit down. I can't stand for a long time. But tonight, we have been blessed to hear from so many different speakers, and we've heard about inspiration and motivation and leadership and exploration with travel. We've heard about so many success stories. Where's Nicole? Nicole had become the CEO of her own company, and just heard some really great things. And the reality is that each one of us has greatness in us, okay? But when you're on that path to get there, things can go wrong. So what?
I'm sorry. Ladies and gentlemen, let me have your attention for Madelyne Woods here. We have this space to about 9:30 for conversations, but let's hear these speakers out, all right? And there's a lot to be heard, so let's have our attention up forward to Madelyne Woods. Let's try it again. Madelyne Woods.
I want to continue on where I left off. So when you're on your path and you're working towards success and you have that dream that we talked about tonight, things can go wrong for you. And so what I want to talk to you about tonight is resilience. A lot of you know I'm a local woman. I'm a local girl. I grew up born on Savannah Terrace. Like most of us here in the DMV, migrated out to the suburbs with my family, so I'm a PG County girl as well. I left here about 19 years ago now, and I've been living in Florida, in Orlando, for 19 years. But last year, I came back because I was feeling empty. And I wanted to come home to try to start over again and figure out what is it that's going on in my world. Why don't I feel fulfilled? Why don't I feel satisfied? Why am I so restless? And for those of you who don't know me, I'll give you a real quick synopsis of what my life has looked like. So again, I'm from this area. I went to the University of Maryland in College Park. Go Terps. Graduated in 3 years. I've always been very motivated, always been very anxious or very impatient. I graduated from the University of Maryland in 3 years with a degree in broadcast journalism. Well, I'm 19 years old. Nobody wants to give me a job. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to figure this out. I was dating the star of the basketball team, Lynn Bias. I'm dating Lynn Bias, 1986. I graduated from the University of Maryland a year early. I think my world is wide open. My boyfriend dies, okay? That would have shut a lot of people down. It's been more than 30 years, and I still get emotional about it because if you're from this area, you remember Lenny, and you remember his potential and how great he was and how everybody loved him and everybody wanted him to succeed, and God said, hold up, but life goes on. So I left after I graduated. This tragedy is struck. I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. I'm thinking I'm going to Boston. I'm not. So I got to figure this out. I'm too young to get on the television here. Again, broadcast journalism, so I wanted to be a White House correspondent. So at 19 years old, nobody in DC was going to hire me. So I said, I got this. I'm going to go to Howard, get my master's, and work at their television station. I did that. I've always had a plan. I've always been the type of person to sit down, think things through, think about that resilience, because life just doesn't end. Went to Howard, got my master's in 1 year. Now I'm 20 years old. I got another degree, and I still ain't got a job. So I moved to South Carolina, Beaufort, South Carolina. Are you guys familiar with that, Beaufort? It has 3 stoplights, 1 Kentucky Fried Chicken, 1 McDonald's. The Marine Corps is there, and that's it. So I go there and I start my career in Beaufort, South Carolina. I'm a one-man band, which means in broadcast news, I have to go out and shoot my stories, carry all my equipment, and my camera did not look like that. My camera back then was 40 pounds. My tripod was another 25 pounds. I had on heels, skirts, makeup, hair, and in Beaufort, it's very humid. I walked out every day with an afro with all my makeup melted down on my face, and again, life goes on. I did that for about a year. I went to Charleston for another year. So again, I always had a plan. I got to keep moving. I got to keep being successful. Did that, decided, you know what? I'm tired of these small towns. I'm ready to go national. It was just something that came to me in my heart. I came home for Thanksgiving, went down the street to BET and was like, I'm gonna get me a job up in this piece, okay? There was no job advertised. There was nothing going on. Nobody knew me, but I went in there the Friday after Thanksgiving. And they were there. My news director was there, Deborah Tang. And I had a meeting. She was kind enough to come out to the front desk when I walked in unannounced, no appointment. She met with me. And we talked, and she said, well, you know something, I like you, but we don't have a job open. But keep in touch with me. I played her my tape and everything. I told her, I want to come home. I want to work for BET. This was the Friday after Thanksgiving. The Monday after Thanksgiving, she called me and was like, come see me again. I was like, okay. So I go back down to BET, and I get there, and Deborah's doing all this talking about the network and how, you know, this is the first of its kind, and we're blazing trails, and we're making history. And, oh, and by the way, I want to know when you could start. And I'm like, what? So I was like, excuse me, I really don't know where you're going with this. She said, I want to offer you a job. I want you to do news briefs. They had someone in that position doing news briefs at that time, Sabrina Dames. Y'all remember Sabrina? Incredible writer, incredible producer, one of my very best friends today. They moved Sabrina over to produce Ed Gordon's show and put me on a news briefs. And I was green, and you know, but I was also a studier, and I was also the type of person that if somebody else can do it, I know I can do it. And if I work hard enough at it, I'm gonna be the best at it. So that was always my personality. So I worked at BET for a few years, got really incredibly popular, had no idea that my career would go this trajectory from news, because I wanted to be a White House correspondent, but Ed Gordon was already doing that, so that wasn't happening for me at BET. So they moved me over to entertainment, which was fine. I can talk to anybody. If you can do news, you can do anything in television. And I knew that. I could write, I could produce, I was good on camera, I've always had presence, I was never afraid. So I went into entertainment. I lasted in entertainment 1 year and got fired. Did y'all know that? That's why I left BET. I can sit here and say, well, I got fired because of this, or somebody did that, it was his fault, my fault, whatever, I got fired. In a story, life goes on. Now, it wasn't that we left on good terms. I was mad at BET, BET was mad at me. BET got the power. I could not buy a job. I couldn't pay people to put me on the air. That's how bad it was. Having left BET, you would think it was a natural progression just to go right on over to MTV, right? MTV Jams was hot back then. You know, the only real black personality they had was Bill Bellamy. Why not bring in Madelyne from BET with this incredible following and keep the flow going? They would not touch me. They would not touch me. I went back to all the locals because I wasn't 19 out of school anymore. Now I had about 3, 4, 5 years under my belt. I got experience, could not get a job. Could not get a job. Now by this time I had been married. I have a 1-year-old daughter. Marriage didn't work out. You know, great guy. We grew up together. Have known each other since we were 12 years old, but we weren't the right people for each other. And that happens. Again, life goes on. So now I got a kid. I'm divorced, I ain't got no job. What am I going to do? Another friend of mine hired me to host the world's largest Super Bowl in Atlanta that year. So I'm down there in Atlanta hosting this party. I mean, it's like 50,000 people in the, what is it called? The trade market or something, the fashion market in Atlanta. It was like underground, it's really big. I'd never been in front of that many people in my life, but it was all good. I'm there hosting, we leave, I have to go make an appearance at this club. I hate clubs, I never go to clubs, but I'm in this club, I'm making this appearance, and Death Row walks in. Y'all remember Death Row? Snoop, Dre, who else was out there? Suge. They walk into the place and the whole club went silent. Because if you remember back then, West Coast rap was a little sketchy. You know, a little danger involved. And so I'm sitting there and Suge walks up to me and is like, how you doing? And I'm like, I'm not talking to you. I heard all about you and I ain't trying to go out like that. And so I keep dancing. And so he said as he looks at me, and you know, Sugar's pretty big. Sugar's like, what, 6'4"? Back then he was like 250, 260. He's a big guy. So I'm this little woman, even though I keep 6 inches on. That's why y'all think I'm tall. I'm not, I'm 5'3". So I'm sitting there dancing in my little 6-inch heels, but he's still towering over me and he will not leave. So finally he says, because I'm ignoring, I'm giving that straight up Southeast DC ice right now, you know, I'm not talking to you. And so the music is playing, but again, the hush in the room is there. And Suge says loudly, hey, don't you need a job? And so exactly, right? Completely embarrassed me, but it was so funny that he called me out like that I started laughing. Suge and I have been friends from that day to this day ever since. When nobody else would even give me a call back, Suge gave me a job. That's how I launched my career in PR. I tell you these stories because life goes on. It's not easy. You will have times when you don't know what's going on, what your next step is going to be. But as long as you believe and God got you and you believe God got you, it's going to be all right. So now I'm working for the #1 record label in the nation, probably in the world at that time, because again, that's when Snoop and Dre were really, really hot, and the Dog Pound. But every day I go to work, I'm thinking I'm going to get shot. You know, and I will never forget that my girlfriend, Jamie Foster Brown, I had been with them less than a year, and Jamie hated it. She didn't want me to go out there. She was, are you crazy? I was like, Jamie, I got to eat. I got a kid. I got to eat. She's like, all right, babe, well, I'm going to pray for you. Thank you, Jamie. You pray for me, girl, because I'm praying too. So I go out there, and I'm there less than a year. And Bernie Mac and I were very best friends. Bernie Mac, his birthday and mine were just a few days apart. The minute I met him at BET, we became lifelong friends forever. He came to LA at one point. It cursed me out. Y'all remember Bernie. Everything was MF and F that, and you know Bernie. Bernie sat me down, and please forgive my language, but he said, motherfucker, are you crazy? What are you doing out here? And I was like, Bernie, I gotta eat, I got a kid, this is the only job I can get, but it's not forever. I'm using this as a stepping stone so I can learn PR and marketing. He said, all right, you need to leave. He said, you need some money, because I need you out of here today. Well, at this time in the background with Death Row, there were a lot of things going on. People were getting shot, people were getting killed, things were disappearing, people were disappearing. And my friends, Jamie, Bernie, so many other were calling me and said, Matt, listen, don't eat. Just come home. Just come home. I'm never scared because God always got me. So I'm doing PR, and it's one thing I'm really proud of having worked with Death Row was that I created an event when I was out there. It was for single moms in Compton, California. So on Mother's Day, I created this huge Mother's Day celebration at the Beverly Hills Hilton Hotel. They had never even been out of Compton. I rented 3 charter buses, got gift bags, real nice swag for them, and we put on a Death Row concert for them. Snoop performed, Dre performed, Bow Wow performed, Danny Boy, Jewel. These were all the artists on Death Row at that time who were really hot. We put on a concert for 300 mothers out of Compton, California, who had never been to Beverly Hills, and it was the best day of their lives. It was something they continued on after I left, because I was gone shortly after that. So this is why I had to leave this time. Excuse me. I wasn't fired, thank God. And I'm one of the few who actually made it out of Death Row alive. I tell you that too. But we went to a club one night. Suge had to make an appearance. Suge just wanted to go to a club, and so I would never ride with them. I would always drive my own car, because I'm from D.C. I know how things go down. So I'm driving my own car. He calls me that night. It's like, leave your car. I need you to ride with us because we got to talk. There's another event coming up. I think we had the Soul Train Music Awards or something coming up. I said, okay. They picked me up in the limo. Snoop's in the limo, not Snoop, Dre's in the limo, Suge's in the limo, and Death Row security, who I love, and unfortunately most of them are dead now, but Death Row security was in the car. So it's me and probably 8 men and the driver. We go to the club, we get out of the limo, we walk up. I had no idea that just the weekend before, Suge had been at the club and had some kind of disagreement with another group of people, which I will not call a gang, but it was another group of people he had a disagreement with, and they had exchanged blood. They had a fight. I had no idea about that. So we get to go into this club, and security runs out. The club security runs us like, Suge, you can't come in here tonight. You can't come in here tonight. So Suge is in the middle. I'm standing on his right. The security guard is standing on his left. As the security guard is talking to Suge, and Suge is like, I'm going in, you're not going to tell me. I can't, I got my peeps here. Suge, big Suge. And the security guy's like, man, I'm sorry, after what happened last week, we just can't let you back in. We were at the Roxy out in LA. There's woods right beside the Roxy outside of the parking lot. I don't know what, but God made me look over into the woods. And there's a brother standing there with a gun pointed at Suge. I'm standing where you are, Ayana. The security guard is where you are, Miss Leadership. I'm sorry, I forgot your name, right? Thank you, Dina. Suge turns to his right and grabs, wait a minute, I was where you are, right, Ayana? He grabs the security guard. The guy standing there with his gun like that is Suge. He grabs the security guard, puts him in front of him. The security guard gets shot. I take off running. I'm back at the limo before anybody else can get to the limo. You would think I would come home, right? Yes. You would think that how many more times are you going to be resilient? How many more times does God have to have your back? But I started a job. I felt committed to this job. I loved the things I was doing for Death Row. I was giving Death Row an image they had never had before, you know, by creating events like that. I started where we gave the uniforms to the Pop Warner teams. Snoop did that. This is all stuff that I thought of while I was out there. However, that was the last straw. So I come back to D.C. My name is still mud in the industry, and especially now that I got the Death Row specter hanging over my shoulder, still can't get a job. Do you know I went to work as a media specialist, what we used to call the librarian at my old high school, Largo High School. Now to come from BET to the librarian at your high school, from BET, where people all over the country knew my name. I couldn't hit an airport, a grocery store. It wasn't Target back then, but okay, let's say Sears. I couldn't go into Woody's. I couldn't go into Garfinkel's without somebody knowing me. And now I'm in the librarian at my high school. See, God will make you humble. So whoever said, get rid of that ego, you ain't never lied, girl. You ain't never lied, because you know ego is edging God out. So perhaps my head got a little big, because I was pretty popular at BET. You know, beside Donnie Simpson, I was the #2 most requested personality to make appearances. After I left BET 10 years later, my Q rating was still higher than everybody else at the network, and I hadn't even been on the air in 10 years. So this is a God-given gift that I have. Fast forward to today. So still couldn't get a job. I was the librarian at my old high school. I went to 92Q in Baltimore for a while. I did the morning show with Randy Dennis for about a year, but that commute was mean. I had a baby, and being a single mom with a baby, trying to get up every morning to be in Baltimore every morning by 5 o'clock, I would hit 97 because I had an apartment out in Bowie. The same state trooper would stop me every morning for speeding, to the point where he would say, "How you doing, Ms. Woods?" And I would say, "Dude, we do this every day." "I know, because you're speeding every day." And I'd be like, "Give me my ticket." I'm serious. We got a little relationship going on, and I would get there right on time just to get on the air, but I couldn't afford that. I couldn't keep that up. So I went to a church revival, and it was out in the mountains in West Virginia, something like that. So I'm over there, and I'm praying, and I'm praying, and I'm praying, and I'm praying for a breakthrough, and I'm praying for God. You have given me this talent. You've given me this ability to touch people, to reach people, to entertain people. Lord, I need to go back on TV. I left that revival. I went to NABJ. I think it was in Houston that year. NABJ is the National Association of Black Journalists. Now, I prayed the weekend before. I went there the next weekend. I met Gary Wardlaw, who was the news director at Channel 7 here in town. And let me tell you Gary's story. And mind you, I still don't have a job. So I don't really have a job because I had to quit 92Q. So I'm out there in Houston, and again, I had never been afraid, and I always figured that if somebody could do it, I could do it too, and I would probably do it better. So I know I want to work at home, and the only news director from my hometown is Gary Wardlaw from WJLA Channel 7. So I'm trying to get to him after he finishes speaking, and everybody rushes him. I can never get there. I found out what room he was in. I went up to him. I was like, Mr. Wardlaw, how you doing? I'm Madelyne Woods. You don't know me, but I'm from your hometown. I'm a news anchor, news producer, and I would really like to work with you. Can I meet you after the event? He's like, well, I'm really busy. I'm like, yeah, I know. When are you going back to your room? And so he stops and looks at me. And at that time, I was in, my Madelyne Woods glamour. And, the goods were like 30 at that point. They ain't 50 like they are today. So the goods was looking kind of good, and it caught his eye. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. Men are men, women are women. Next. So he's looking at me, and he's like, why is this woman asking to come to my room? I didn't care. I needed a job. So he tells me his room number. I said, when are you going to be there? He said, I'll be there at 7:30. I said, I'll be at your room at 7:30. And he's like, well, how are you going to show me your tape? I said, don't worry about it. I went down to the front desk. I rented audio-visual equipment. Y'all remember when they had those big, things and the big TV at the top and the VCR was down here? I rented that. It cost me $25. It was the best $25 I ever spent in my life. I rolled that thing onto the elevator, upstairs, down the hallway, around the corner, back down the hallway to get to his room. I was knocking on his door at 7:30. And he sees me with this big, monstrous thing, and he just starts laughing. He said, you know something, Madelyne? He watches my. They saw me on the air. Within 30 days, I was packed, moved, and in Orlando working for the world's #1 vacation destination for families. Again, in the world. God is incredible, you know? Every time there's a dark cloud, there's a silver lining. That ain't no lie, y'all. I'm here to tell you that. 18 years in Orlando, love it. Met my husband, my second husband, had a son, got a great career. I'm doing really well, and I started to get antsy again. Well, it's funny because antsy translated, for me, it was antsy. Something else was pulling me home that I wasn't even aware of. So I tell my husband and my family about a year and a half ago, I need to go home. My husband's a native Floridian. He's not coming. He ain't doing snow. He ain't doing ice. He ain't doing cold weather. He's like, yeah, Matt, our home is here. Whenever you want to go home, we'll go. I'm like, no, Michael, I need to go home. And so I kept talking to him for about 6 months about this, and it was because it was something in my spirit that was telling me, come home. So finally I said, we came home for the BT reunion last year. This was last August. And we're at the party. Even my son, my little 15-year-old son was in the party. He ain't supposed to be in no club, but it's my son's, and you know, I talk to people, so we all in. And we leave the party, we go back to my parents' house, because whenever I come to the area, I always stay with my parents. It's my family. I want to be around my parents. And I could see that my mom's health wasn't what it was supposed to be. My mom is 83, my dad is 87. They both have health issues. They're both older. They're much more slower now. They need support. And so I watched my mom all weekend while we were there, and Sunday morning when we were supposed to fly out, I told Michael, I said, I'm not going back. I'm not going back. I'm staying here. And he looked at me and he said, are you sure? I said, baby, I gotta stay. Something is telling me I belong in DC right now. Now, y'all know a lot of marriages would have broken up over that. You know, I done said, see ya, I ain't coming back, love you, but I ain't coming back with you. We stayed apart for a year last year, so that was August when I made that decision to stay home. My mother had a massive stroke in October. Something spoke to me and said, you belong in DC, you need to be here. I live with my parents now. Yeah, from that day, I live with my parents. Didn't know that that's what was coming down the pipe, but it was just something in my spirit. My daughter was like, well, Mommy, if you're going to be in D.C., I'm transferring. My daughter was in law school in Orlando. She transferred, don't worry about it, put in her application at American University. She's now in the JD MBA program at American University, just finished her first year of law school. She's in her second year of law school now. She took a semester off, was like, Mommy, I'm coming. Took a semester off, put in her application, got accepted, and she's excelling. She's a Dean's Fellow. She is, again, JD MBA program, but she has that sense of no fear that I've taught my children. If you can do it, if they did it, you can do this. This is what I teach my kids. Michael and I teach our kids. So my mom has a stroke in October. I am literally in the hospital with her every day for 27 days, day and night, around the clock, so much so that the nurses would come in the room just to check on me because they didn't have to do nothing, because that's my mother. You know, you bring the medicine, I'm going to give it to her. She has to go to the bathroom, I'm picking her up and taking her to the potty. She needs a bath, I'm going to bathe. This is my mother, okay? My dad, again, he was 86 at the time. Stroke happened on his birthday. The morning of his birthday. They're getting dressed to go out to breakfast, and she sits there and is not herself. She's closed the bathroom door. We don't close doors in my family. So my dad's like, why's the door closed? And she wasn't herself. She said, Lloyd, I got a really bad headache. And he calls 911. Thank God he called 911. So I'm in the hospital with her for 27 days. Now, something was in my spirit to come home, but I really thought it was to resume my career. Because from August to October, I was out in the streets. I was talking to the news directors. I was talking to the radio stations, and everybody was excited because Madelyne was home. And they know the cachet that brings because of the relationships I've established. I'm from here. You know, I had a national following. It would only make sense. So it didn't work out like that. I came home to take care of my mom. I've been there ever since. Now, where are we now? Almost October. So it's a year and some more months, and I still haven't gotten a job. But I do a lot of freelance work. And I shouldn't even say a lot, I'm lying, it ain't a lot. I do some projects from now and then, but my main focus and my main career right now is being a caregiver, around the clock caregiver. There's moments when I get bitter about that because that ain't what I want to do. That ain't what I want to do. I want to be on the net, on television again. And I look at these stations and I'm like, oh, she's good, but I could do that. Oh, she's good. She ain't good at all. I need her job, you know. But that I'm joking when I say things like that, but because I know there's going to be a spot for me when it's my turn. And that's the one thing that I wanted to talk about tonight was understanding when it's your turn, listening to your spirit when it speaks to you, not missing your cues. Because had I been in Florida, my mom may not have made it. That's how bad her stroke was. I helped my mother learn how to walk again. She still won't bathe without me. She won't be in the house alone. My mother was really, really hurt by this stroke. She has dementia now. You know, my dad is 87. My dad's not going to let anybody do anything for his wife, but I back my daddy up because my daddy's 87 and he has his own health issues and he can't do it all. But I know that no matter what else is going on, God got my plan. He knows what I need to do. He knows what I want to do, and he's going to line it up for me when it's my turn. So that's all I really wanted to share with you guys tonight. I can talk about the media, but I ain't going to tell you nothing that you don't know. It's a disappointment now. You know, it's sensationalized. It's negative. It doesn't make you feel good when you turn on the TV anymore. You know, but you know that. I don't sit and tell you about that. But there's a movement on, I feel it is very subtle right now to turn that all the way back around. We will always have some shows that we won't be proud of. We will always have some personalities that we really can't embrace. But the good in TV and the good in the world, I'm trying to tell you, I really feel like it's coming back. I know we got Trump on the horizon. I know that. You know, we know that. But we have survived worse, okay? Let's get real. Because Trump won't just hurt us, as everybody keeps trying to make it about, you know, black folks. Trump gonna hurt a whole bunch of people if he gets in there. I say Hillary may not be much better. And that's the reality. Because you don't know what somebody's gonna do. You don't know what somebody's gonna do until they do it. But the one thing that is consistent is God. So no matter what else is going on, we're gonna be all right, y'all. I want y'all to remember resilience. I want you to remember when you have these dreams and those doors aren't opening up the moment when you need them to, your turn's coming. Sit tight. Sit tight, but you got to stay faithful and you got to keep praying. And you got to believe in the prayers that you say out your mouth. Or you're going to keep waiting. Because God will not bring you nowhere until you are ready and it's your turn. Thanks, y'all.